All right, today we have Perry Woodfin, founder and CEO of Node 40. Perry's going to give us a little bit insight on his background, what he did before Node 40, how he got into crypto, and what they're doing today to solve a big problem in the crypto tax and accounting space. Perry, welcome.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's really an exciting time to be in this space. I've been in it for quite some time. And the space that we're particularly in, which is data analytics around economics, that's becoming more and more important as sort of the cowboys get pushed out and we see more institutional players come in.
Yeah. So what did you do professionally before you got involved in the crypto space?
Yeah, so I've been a software engineer for decades now. Actually, funny story. I just went to go see Jeremy Allaire, who heads up Circle. So they had the Circle Forum in New York City I think it was last Friday, and he's one of the reasons I got into technology in the first place about 30 years ago. And he's had this consistent message all this time of making the internet accessible for everybody, and now he's doing the same thing for digital assets. So that's kind of been the trajectory of my career, is following people smarter than I am.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you get involved in, the digital asset space, specifically Bitcoin, cryptocurrency?
Yeah, in 2012, so I was working for a software consulting company, and one of my colleagues, we were at a conference in Vegas, and he just kept picking up his phone, and he's like looking at his phone constantly, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I'm checking the price of Bitcoin," and I had heard about it, but I didn't know all that much about it, and so I'd ask, "Why are you checking the price of Bitcoin?" And he had built a mining rig that he had set up on his kitchen floor. So he showed me a picture of this mining rig that he's mining Bitcoin. And I thought, well, that's cool. So he sent me a link to the white paper. I read the white paper. I got really interested. I sent a check to Japan so I could get into Mount Gox and get my first Bitcoin. And then you get sucked in really, really quick. So 2012, it was pretty much just Bitcoin. And then there were all these other projects that were starting to make noise, like copying Bitcoin. Excuse me one second. So they were copying Bitcoin, and there were cool projects that were starting to come out. So I got involved in some of those open source projects really early on. Um, then if you've met anybody who's in the crypto space, they tell their friends and family about it constantly. That's all they do and so that was me as well. So I couldn't stop talking about it. And in 2014, friends and family said, you should start a business in this space. And at that same time, there was a cryptocurrency that came around that was really the first to incentivize people to run the nodes. So, all these cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're all node based. So all the transactions get broadcast through nodes. And you need people to run these nodes. So you need to incentivize them. And there was a crypto that did that. It was called Dash. And you just had to know how to run a server for somebody else, and they would collateralize the Dash they had, and then they would get paid in yield rewards. So I approached a colleague of mine, Sean Ryan, in early 2015, and I said, "Hey, we can start a business running servers where we get into this blockchain space, and I think this may have legs." And given our backgrounds as software engineers, we started the first staking company in March of 2015. And then we were off to the races. We had clients as soon as we opened the doors. Uh, and we decided fortuitously to allow our clients to pay us in crypto. So that is what led us to where we are today, which is analytics. And the reason that happened was our clients were paying us in crypto. So at some point, we had a conversation with our accountant, and we had to say, "Hey, we're going to have to pay taxes at some point. Can you help us understand this?" And he said, "Sure, but I don't want to understand the technology. I don't care about it. I don't want to learn something new." That was back in 2015. If you asked him to look at this now, he would have the same response. "I'm an accountant. I don't want to have to learn the technology." So we ended up building a tool that would produce an audit trail for us of all of our transactions, because we wanted to stay above board. We were really worried about the New York Department of Financial Services, who was making all this noise about the BitLicense. And we didn't want to run afoul of the guidance that they were proposing and the regulation that was going to come. So we built this this bulletproof audit trail that would protect us should a regulator ever come knocking. And really, we fell in love with that side of things. So that's much more interesting to do data analytics than it is to run servers. Running servers is kind of boring for a software engineer. So we decided, let's continue to look at this. 2015, there aren't going to be any clients because it's all, crypto cowboys and crypto anarchists. They weren't going to pay their taxes. They weren't concerned about that. So we just chewed on the problem until about 2020 when DeFi started to really ramp up. And then we released a product that would allow people to produce an audit trail and understand operationally what they did and economically what the impact of those operations were. And so that was the genesis for what we do today at Node 40, operational and economic context in the form of financial reports that any occasional CFO or controller could understand. So we're removing that friction. Going back to my kind of following Jeremy Allaire, his thesis has always been, if you can remove friction from technology, you'll get adoption much faster. You'll make everybody happier. So that's what we decided we could do, is remove that friction and allow people to play in this space.
That's awesome. So your first Bitcoin purchase was 2012 from Mt. Gox?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's a weird thing to send a check to Japan, and it didn't quite make sense. So I sent like a really small, I want to say a couple $100 worth, just to test the waters. But then, yeah, I was off to the races at that point.
So did you get caught up in the whole Mt. Gox thing?
I didn't. Thankfully, I knew how to run my own wallet. So as soon as I would purchase something, I wanted to play around and understand it. I like to tinker. So I would make sure that I would pull it down to my wallet and so I could see it there, like it lived on my computer, which is not technically what's happening, but that's how you learn, is moving around. So I thankfully was able to retain that Bitcoin, and I still have it. So, and my own software tells me how many days I've held it, which is kind of cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So never sold it from 2012.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, that's cool. So you are a real OG in the Bitcoin and crypto space.
Yeah, I'm just not allowed OG. So like, people may not know my name, but I've been around for a long time, and I really understand the complexities of the space and how companies, if they want to survive, like what they need in order to survive, because it's all about compliance.
So how do you feel about the future of Bitcoin and blockchain and crypto as an industry?
Yeah, I'm really bullish on that, and the reason is because it's a tech driven disruption, and we all know how those turn out. So the automobile was a tech driven disruption, the internet was a tech driven disruption. You and I are old enough to have seen that transition from, say, pre-email to email. Blockchain is the same tech driven disruption. And so you and I have seen now two massive disruptions. Maybe there will be a third with intelligence at some point. But yeah, this is a really big one, and it's got this really long, left tail on the upswing before the inflection point of this ubiquitous of blockchain. But it's coming, and that's what really excites me. So the tinkerers, the people who have laid the foundation for how is this going to work and how do we remove the friction, they are starting to see the fruits of their labors be realized. So the fruits of their labors, unfortunately, come in the form of regulation from the government, but that's an acceptance that allows other people to get into the space.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think we're just scratching the surface of where everything is going. And I use the analogy in my journey for my generation, going from eight track tapes to and albums to cassette tapes to the CDs, Sony Walkman CDs, to the iPod, the first iPod, and now just where everything is. It's just been that whole evolution of technology, the digitization of intellectual assets, and now we're facing the digitization of everything, as we move forward.
Yeah, and that's our thesis as a company, is that we're starting in crypto because that's kind of a playground. There's a sandbox where people are doing really interesting things. As much as you may want to laugh about these expensive JPEGs as NFTs, some of the smart contracts people are developing to manipulate NFTs and attach them to real world assets, those are really interesting, and they're going to allow us to start having conversations around tokenizing everything. So commodities, equities, real estate, anything that can be tokenized because it brings efficiency or, an economic benefit will be. And that means you now have to track this massive amount of data in order for that efficiency to be realized.
Yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. So tell us about Node 40, a little bit more about Node 40, what the company does and who your ideal clients are right now, who you're serving.
Okay. Yeah. I like to talk about us as a data analytics company. So when you have a brand new disruptive technology, there are a couple of approaches you can take. You can tinker around with that disruptive technology, and you can say, "Oh, I see a hole here and that hole can be filled." And the other approach you can take is to look at this as a foundational change. And if it's a foundational change, what is the foundation? And for blockchain, that's data. So we have taken the approach of the data is the most important thing you can get out of the blockchain. And then you have to decorate that data with context. So what Node 40 does is we read all of the transactions that somebody has interacted with through their wallet or through an exchange. And then we add operational context and economic context on top of that. Because the one thing every single business needs is to be able to do accounting. And there are two sides of accounting. There are business accounting. What did you do? Operationally, what did you do? And then there's financial accounting. What were the consequences of what you did from an economic standpoint? So we take this data, we put that operational and economic context on top of it, and then we generate reports that any financial professional, accounting professional can understand. So that is covering a lot of ground, and that's part of the problem with companies getting into this space right now. Is the market is so massive, and if our thesis is correct and your thesis is correct that many things will become tokenized, that's overwhelming. So our first vertical that we went into was accounting firms. We decided to select accounting firms as our first client base because they're really the front line. They get interesting clients who are doing interesting things in this space, and they may not know how to communicate that with their financial professionals. So the accountants will be very collaborative with us. We can learn from them, and they can learn from us. As we're doing that, we're getting a really rich education about what does the financial world expect from transactions that are taking place on the blockchain. So that will allow us to look at additional verticals. Government is a really good one. There are going to be two sides to the government regulating crypto. The one side is government itself is going to want to know what these transactions do. So they're going to need a service provider to do that. That may or may not be us. But the other side of that is if the government is looking at you and saying, we don't think you did this right, you're going to need a platform to say, no, I can defend the position that I'm taking. So no matter who wins this sort of government contract to help people understand or help, the IRS understand what's going on, there's going to have to be a counterparty that can also produce that audit trail for you. And then that, of course, is going to evolve into other verticals like, the spot ETFs. They're going to be holding actual Bitcoin. So how do they track it? And how do they provide reporting for their clients? So if you're tackling the foundational problem of understanding the data on the blockchain, you can really go after every single entity that is involved in digital assets, tokenized assets, crypto, whatever's coming next.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So I know you're in recent discussions, like even with the IRS and other government organizations in terms of, how they can use the technology as well.
Yeah, so the IRS put out a request for information, and so we responded to that request for information because we've actually seen clients who have gotten audits from the IRS, and so the data coming out of the IRS um, can be sloppy. And that's not to say that there aren't people within Treasury and within the IRS that don't understand this. There are some really brilliant people that work there, but I don't think there's the consistency that's needed for them to have conversations with clients or with taxpayers who either made a mistake unintentionally or the people who are really trying to get away with something. So we did the response to the RFI, and then we've had follow up. We're expecting an RFP at some point where they're going to want to try to figure out how do they capture all the activity that people are involved with,
Yeah.
and that is going to be essentially mandated by the by Treasury. They released guidance about 6 to 8 weeks ago. Open comment period till the end of October.
Yeah. So talk about the confusion with accounting firms tracking, multiple transactions across multiple exchanges with multiple assets, and how Node 40 kind of solves that problem.
Yeah, so there are a lot of problems there. The first one that will resonate with people is the cost basis problem. So if you have multiple exchanges and you've moved assets between sources, say you've got a hardware wallet and then you've moved to maybe a Gemini, a Kraken, or a Coinbase, that cost basis doesn't come along with the asset. So if you were to get a report, say you exchanged, I don't know why you would want to do this, but let's say you exchanged Bitcoin for US dollars. Coinbase could send you a report saying, here's what your tax liability is, but it's likely going to be incorrect. So that's one of the first things that we can solve, is allow you to take the position and defend the position that what your tax liability is may be different from what's being reported to the government. The other thing we do is the operationally what happened. So I think most people are familiar with a platform called Etherscan, where you can look at transactions and get a sense of what is going on there, but it's a cumbersome process. And often what will happen is the first time we talk to accounting firms, they will use Etherscan to manually try to understand somebody's transactions. And it's just terribly inefficient. So we have an example of a firm that spent about 500 hours on a single portfolio, just trying to understand the transactions this person was involved with so that they could provide guidance and understand this person's tax liability. And our proof of concept was give us the sources, which was 3 ETH addresses, and we processed that in about an hour. So that's massive efficiency, from 500 hours down to an hour. And we produced this report that showed exactly what this person had done. We were able to apply business rules on top of the data that we captured that is specific to that particular firm. And it allows them to operate and take on more of their clients. So you can imagine at 500 hours, even as a really large firm, you can't take on the number of clients who have crypto already. So you're essentially leaving money on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. That's a powerful, powerful tool.
Yeah, it is. And it eliminates a lot of confusion. There's another firm we work with. I think they're like at number 30 or maybe even top 20. And they were saying, man, you guys are like data scientists with this stuff. We thought we understood it, but when the reporting that you give to us makes it so clear what's going on with our client that we feel really confident in providing guidance to them.
Yeah. That's awesome. Who are your ideal clients right now? Who are you targeting, and who's the best fit for Node 40 right now?
Yeah, the best fit are the larger accounting firms, kind of like second tier, so below the top 4, who really want to. They're willing to go through some pain to understand how this stuff works, so that they can position themselves for what's coming next. So, looking for those firms that love to create, have really, really complex clients that no other platform can help them with. And then we like to prove ourselves on the most complex client, because once we do that, we know we can take on all of their clients.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's shift gears a little bit. Is this your first foray into entrepreneurship?
No, I started boy, when was that? It was before 2000. It was 1998. I had started a software company that helped art galleries manage their online presence. Um, and that was more of a lifestyle company because I love art. Like I grew up around, my folks would always have art books laying around all over the place. So I just kind of wanted to be in that space. And I was a software engineer, so I built a product that could do that. It lasted for about 10 years, and I just got tired of it. Like there was dealing with gallery owners was not something I wanted to do. I just wanted to see the art. So that was my first company. Ended up selling that off. Then we got into the staking company. We ended up selling off the staking side of the business, and so really this is my third baby.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how long were you in the corporate world before that?
I have been a software consultant since I want to say 96 or 97.
Yeah, so you were early right in. Yeah, I don't even think I
Yeah.
was. Yeah, I wasn't even using a computer at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I used my first computer in '99 or 2000.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
what were you doing before that?
Just didn't have it. So, with cell phones and pagers and things like that. I mean, in terms of like in business, so we may have had a computer in the house, and it was an old iMac that my dad gave me.
Yeah.
Excuse me, in like 1997, 98, just to kind of surf the internet a little bit. But in my business, I had a construction company at the time. That's how I got started in 1997. I was doing books by hand. I had a hand ledger that I was doing all my books and payroll and, handwritten invoices and all that. And I remember, I think it was 1999 when I ordered my first Gateway computer. Remember how you could like go on
Yeah.
Gateway and, you could like customize it and all that kind of stuff. And, the
Yeah.
box that looked like a cow came in, and
Right.
yeah, yeah, it was really cool. And I bought that for the office, but I didn't really learn how to use it. I had an office manager, and I would just dictate to her whatever I needed, and she would do all the emails and do everything. And yeah, and then it just evolved from there. And now, I'm very tech savvy now, and work all kinds of devices. But yeah, I just didn't need it, didn't use it until that time, and then started embracing it. And what's funny too is even in '04, probably the early 2000s through '04, '05, I was really into technology. Like, for my construction company, we had superintendents out in the field. Like I was putting laptops in the truck for them to use to communicate with the office and the clients. And, that was back when you had to put the little, stick in your mobile phone so you could connect to the internet, and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So, we were high tech as a construction company, back then. But me personally, I didn't use all that stuff. I still just dialed the phone. I had a pager, I wasn't using a laptop, any of that kind of stuff. And had my desktop in the office, and yeah, I'd check email with it and have my office manager respond. It was really funny. I didn't even start using a smartphone until 2011.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't remember what date this was, but one of the consulting companies I worked with, we did the first live webcast of a IndyCar race in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. So it was a cumbersome process where we were carrying around a laptop. Somebody else was holding a corded camera to that laptop so that we could broadcast this on, again, one of those little sticks that you plug into the laptop.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah, I've
awesome.
always been super interested in technology and how that brings efficiencies and kind of what the opportunities are.
Yeah, yeah, same here. I mean, I'm an efficiency expert. That's where I live in a lot of ways. And it's really funny, just my journey with technology. And now I'm tech support, around my house. My house, my friends, they all know, hey, call Greg, you got a problem, I can
Yeah.
fix it. And I learned that by doing with whenever I had a problem, especially, working with PCs and stuff, and things would get jammed up, and I would walk through them on screen shares, and I learned it and picked it up pretty quick.
So have you gotten your friends into crypto as well?
No, no, I don't really do that. So
Okay.
what I help people do is understand it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't encourage people to really, invest in anything or get involved in anything like that. I just kind of help them understand it, those types of things. And actually, I was the one at Thanksgiving telling my family to sell of 2021. So,
Yeah.
I was
Nice.
really loud in 2021 telling everybody, look, this is a peak, you need to get out. And I had family members that were buying, and I remember one of them that was buying uh not sand, but one of the other, one of those other ones that dang, I can't remember what it is now, but it was like Decentraland or something. I can't remember what it was that he was buying, and I was like, no, don't do it. It's time to sell. You know,
Yeah.
the paradigm is shifting, and that's the same thing in the markets. You know,
Right.
and then I re-entered. Back around the bottom. I mean, I bought Facebook at the bottom of October 2022, like $100, and things like that. But no, I don't push people into different investments. I help them kind of understand it and make some decisions based on where they are. But yeah, you know because when I came into the space, I went through the journey of uphill, so I first heard about Bitcoin and crypto back in 2015, 2016. Same as you. Somebody mentioned the word Bitcoin. I'm like, what is that? I hadn't even heard of it really before then.
Yeah.
And then I started watching it and following it and tracking it and, played with it a little bit, but I didn't really get involved till the bottom of, March 2020. And then I bought some Bitcoin and some other crypto and sold on the way up. And then I, played with it and traded, on the way down after that, just kind of learning more about, how to actually trade it, what it's all about, and played around a little bit. But, for me, it's really still, even now, isn't time, to where I would tell somebody, look, it's time to get some exposure. There's still a little bit of dust, I think, that needs to settle,
Yeah.
in the space. And what I'm really looking for, where, I will start encouraging people, is once we get, more regulatory guidance. We've got the FASB rules, we've got the new tax proposals. I don't think that's law yet, is it? The new
It
tax.
isn't, right? It's even open for comment until the end of this month.
Yeah. So, once the tax laws have been sorted out, we know that FASB's been sorted out, and we get some ETFs, then, I will feel better about it. But I would hate to tell somebody to go do it, and then it just implodes and they lose their life savings, because people will do that.
Yeah.
You tell them, hey, just allocate a little bit, they'll put their life savings in it. And I've had people reach out to me that have lost their life savings since the peak, and they still haven't recovered. And
Oh,
I just don't want to be responsible for that.
right.
Yep. So
Well,
that's where I'm at that. But and on that topic, I know you guys are in your Series A right now, so you want to talk about that a little bit, and who that potential investor candidate might be.
oh, sure. Yeah. So we are raising a Series A. So my co-founder and I, we had bootstrapped the company up until the end of 2020, the end of 2020. So we had been in the space since 2015. When we sold off the staking company, we used a lot of that money to continue building this product, Node 40 Balance. So we took on some pre-seed money, friends and family round. Then we did a seed round at the end of 2021. And then we used that money to really professionalize the business. So as software engineers, we knew how to build a product, and we knew how to make sure that that product worked appropriately. But our experience in scaling up a company was not something that we had done. So we had brought on Gary Cardone as the lead investor for that seed investment. And what attracted us to Gary was he had built other companies before, and he sort of knew what mistakes we shouldn't make, and was able to guide us. And so we used that investment to help operationalize the company and really hone in on the product market fit and what vertical we were going to go for. So now that we've got all that locked in, the company is a completely different company. It's no longer just engineers looking at what's the next new tech puzzle that I need to solve. It's really thinking holistically around what's going on with the industry. How do we position ourselves to really grow in this space? So now that we've really figured that out and de-risked the company, we're doing a Series A raise. That Series A is going to be a $12 million raise. And that should buy us 36 months of runway, which is a significant amount of time in this space. It's not a great time to be raising, but we are looking for somebody to lead that round who's got the connections in the space, whether that's in traditional finance or in kind of the burgeoning blockchain space.
Yeah, awesome. Great. So where is the company now? So it started out just the two of you. So take us on your growth path a little bit.
Yeah, it started off with the two of us. So it was me and Sean that were actually doing the development. Then we realized, well, somebody's got to run the business. So Sean's got a much richer computer science background than I have. So we decided Sean is going to be the kind of head of product, CTO. He's gonna lead that. And we had brought on somebody to do front end work. And Jason has been with us for many years now. And then we just started to grow from there. So once we were able to raise some pre-seed and some seed, we expanded from 2 people to about 6 people, and then from 6 people to I think we're right around 30 people right now. And we do need to expand that a bit on the engineering side. But we're in financial services, so we also have compliance concerns that we need to make sure that our clients understand that we're doing what we say we're doing. So we'll be expanding the compliance side of things, as well as sort of the analysts who help others understand where this industry is going.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Perry, I appreciate you carving out a few minutes today to share your story and your journey. It's exciting. And where can people find you and find more out about Node 40?
Yeah, so they can find out about Node 40 at node40.com, NODE40.com. And it can reach out to me directly. My email is Perry, my first name, PERRY, at node40.com.
Great. Yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes there. And I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Great. Thanks, Greg.